This is Due South on WUNC News. I'm Jeff Tiberii. Ballot hokey pokey played out this week as a controversial congressman is out and a lesser-known state lawmaker in.
She's just very experienced, very passionate. She knows the values of this country. She's 8th-generation farmer. She's got a tremendous amount of legislative experience and a track record that's hard to beat.
We'll give you the details ahead during our North Carolina Friday News Roundup. Then, later, another city considers a mega data center, and residents again push back.
These massive data centers consume millions of gallons of water just to cool their servers. This is not an abstract statistic. It translates into real consequences for our community.
We're reviewing the week on Due South. First, news.
Hi there. I'm Leonida Inge, host of Due South. Thanks for listening and supporting our podcast. We work smart to bring you the best North Carolina and the South have to offer, from the latest in state politics to important voices in race and Southern culture. Due South is here every day. But we couldn't do it without your financial support. Thank you. If you like what you're hearing, please consider making a donation today at WUNC.org.
From the studios of WUNC News in Chapel Hill, it is Due South. Glad to have you along for our North Carolina Friday News Roundup. I'm Jeff Tiberii. Plenty to discuss on this hot, sweltering Friday in August. We'll get to it in just about 1 minute.
The Republican 11th Congressional District Executive Committee selected Jennifer Balkcom. Balkcom replaces Representative Chuck Edwards, who stepped down last week after a House ethics investigation.
If you wanted to snag a season ticket for the Carolina Hurricanes, you're out of luck.
Yeah, the team announced today that season tickets are officially sold out.
Attorney General Jeff Jackson says he will not sign the proposed settlement, which would raise Duke Energy Progress residential rates about 6.8% over 2 years.
The weekly report now shows most of North Carolina is either abnormally dry or in a moderate drought. Those are the lowest 2 of the 5 categories in the U.S. Drought Monitor.
We're learning Democrat Roy Cooper is maintaining a wide lead over Republican Michael Whatley in the race. The former 2-term governor leads Whatley by 11 points. 53% of likely voters support Cooper.
All that, plenty more, taking you up to Embodied at 1 o'clock here on listener-supported WUNC News. With us for the hour, Bryan Anderson, statewide politics reporter at the Assembly, also creator of the Anderson Alerts newsletter. Dane Huffman is with us, engagement editor at Triangle Business Journal. Helen Moore is a reporter for Axios Raleigh, and Adam Wagner is reporter and editor covering state politics for the North Carolina Newsroom. Hello, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, thank you.
All right. We'd love to hear from you as well. If you have a comment, question, something else to share with the panel, please send it along to south@WUNC.org. All right. Let's begin with the newest congressional candidate from our state in the mountainous 11th District. Jennifer Balkcom replaces Chuck Edwards, who announced earlier this month he would not seek another term. His decision followed a House ethics investigation that exposed inappropriate relationships with 2 female staffers. Basics to start. Who is Jennifer Balkcom?
Jennifer Balkcom is a second-term member of the State House from Henderson County. She's pretty much a standard Republican at this point. Comes from an agricultural background. She's anti-gun control. She's pretty outspoken on trans issues, against trans women playing in women's sports. She's a reasonable candidate for this district, I think.
Very pro-Trump, was mentioning Trump in some of her initial comments once the local Republican establishment tapped her to replace Edwards. Early voting begins in a mere 62 days, Bryan Anderson. That might seem crazy to believe, but it does. What are the biggest challenges before Balkcom between now and then?
So Balkcom, as a congressional candidate in Western North Carolina, there's, I think, 15 whole counties and part of one county. That's a lot of people to try and reach, whereas the people she's represented in the state legislature is closer to around 80,000 people in not even the whole of Henderson County. So there's a big name ID gap where she's going to have to communicate to people who have never heard her name before. Now, Jamie Yeager, the Democrat running, he has more of an established political background with his family name. His brother is in the legislature. His dad and grandfather have been in politics before. So Yeager doesn't have as big of a name ID challenge as Balkcom, but both are first-time candidates, fresh faces for many of the voters, and getting the message out in many ways can be the toughest challenge.
The 11th congressional district is almost as large in size as the state of Connecticut. Not quite as large, but it's almost as large. Reminder to listeners, this is a district that has been held by a Republican since 2011 or 2012.
Since Heath Shuler. Who I guess he last won re-election in 2010, then they did redistricting. But this is a district that has been Republican. Where does this factor in? We've talked about on the program, it's been moved to a toss-up district in some polls. It's a lean R now. It's seen as more competitive, but that's the vision on August 14th. It's like an R plus 5-ish, kind of slipping blue, but slowly.
Yeah.
And I think that might actually be a challenge for Yeager with Balkcom being Democrat. With Balkcom being kind of a generic Republican. I think that running against a more generic Republican is harder for Yeager than running against Chuck Edwards with all of his ethical foibles.
And also, this is a district that Trump carried in 2024 by 9.5 percentage points. Obviously, there's a difference between a presidential turnout and a midterm, but this is a district that elected Mark Meadows, turned Madison Cawthorn, turned Chuck Edwards. So it is on paper a seat Republicans should win in a normal election cycle, but this is not a normal election cycle. And one fascinating nugget on Balkcom I have to share is I reached out to the State Board of Elections to see what her voting history was.
Right.
She's a libertarian turned Democrat.
Oh, interesting.
Turned Republican, turned GOP congressional nominee.
Oh,
so
that's fascinating.
she has a complex history, including voting in Democratic primaries, at least in the 2012 presidential election.
And that feels appropriate for the 11th district, right? There's a streak of populism up there. There is a twinge of libertarianism. So, all right, that's interesting.
I think the other thing to consider there is just, I don't think we can talk about a district without talking about Hurricane Helene recovery. And just the slow pace of the money coming in could lead to frustration there against Republicans.
Sure, because Republicans have been in power, because there are 2 Republican U.S. senators from this state presently, and they obviously don't control all the levers, but there's not been a lot of money going to
Republican congressman in that district, and there's a Republican president. So
interesting. Yeah. All right. Friday News Roundup here on Due South, listener-supported WUNC News. Meanwhile, on the campaign trail, new polling in North Carolina's open U.S. Senate race shows Democrat Roy Cooper with a double-digit lead in the race against Republican Michael Whatley. There are third-party candidates here, FYI. That's a big number, not in line with recent election results in our state. That said, what do you glean from this Elon University poll?
Yeah, so there's 2 different polls that came out this week. Elon University, full disclosure, I went to Elon and I briefly worked while as a student for the Elon poll, not anymore. But that poll found Whatley trailing Cooper by 11 points. Whatley, the GOP nominee, Cooper, the Democratic nominee. And a Carolina Journal poll, which is commissioned by a conservative think tank organization.
John Locke Foundation.
Yeah, John Locke Foundation. That showed Whatley trailing by 12.5 percentage points. Now, if you want to go back in history, this is very far out from an election where if you reach out to voters, the people who are most likely to respond are people who are civically engaged, politically motivated to talk, have their thoughts well before the election. And I looked back at the 2020 gubernatorial election between Cooper and Dan Forest. At this point in that cycle, the Carolina Journal, I believe, had Cooper up by 14 points over then Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest, and Cooper wound up winning by a little bit more than 4 percentage points. So this is not to say Cooper is going to win by double digits. He very well could. But to me, the most interesting trajectory is the Carolina Journal poll is not going in Whatley's direction. We saw it like an 8-point lead for Cooper last year, then 9-point lead, then 7.4. So if I'm reading the poll, to me, the story isn't a double-digit number. It's the trajectory of Whatley not making progress in the last several months.
I think the other thing here is there have been a handful of polls in recent weeks where Cooper has gotten over 50%. It had felt for a while like he'd kind of found a ceiling at like 48, 49%, and there were sitting Republicans going on talk shows pointing this out. And now suddenly it seems like he's over 50% in some of these polls.
Interesting. And as not overly patronizing math reminder here, you don't have to get 50% to win an election in the state of North Carolina. And as I mentioned, there are third-party candidates in this race. So it is mathematically feasible. You could become the next U.S. Senator from North Carolina with 46 or 47% of the vote. If you get above 50%, there's absolutely no doubt that you're going to win.
Yeah, I'll just say the bottom line takeaway I had for our newsletter today was, take polls with a grain of salt, especially 3 months out from an election. But if Whatley wants to win, something has to change.
And kind of to that point, I do think everyone expects this thing to tighten up. I mean, I'll say a couple things. But one, to lift up what you just said, there were polls, however many years ago that was, in the Cooper Forest race.
Yeah, Cooper Forest.
That had them 14 percentage points apart. They ended up that was off by 10 percentage points, right? Like 14% is a seismic upset. This is Carolina v. Hampton in college basketball in November. It's not going to happen.
Well, polls are snapshots in time, and what Cooper is ahead by today might not be what he's ahead by 3 months from now, is what the pollsters would say to that point. But I think the more interesting point is Carolina Journal had Cooper up 8.7 points in November 2025, had Cooper up 7.8 points in March, had Cooper up 11.1 points in May, and now 12.5 points. So to me, the takeaway has to just be, from a messaging standpoint, we've seen Whatley attacking Cooper over this COVID-era inmate settlement, and at least the polls show right now that it's not really changing Cooper's numbers and not really helping Whatley. I think a lot of people are just trying to learn about who Whatley is, what he stands for, and might not feel like they're getting that in their messaging.
Polls, political polls, horse race polls that we were talking about are not, as Bryan Anderson points out here on Due South, predictive models. They are a snapshot in time. And as one more, I think, interesting data point to consider, there was a Wisconsin gubernatorial candidate here who in recent months was ahead by 11 points, and she lost this week. Her name was Francesca Hong. That was in the Wisconsin gubernatorial race, one of those progressive Democratic candidates. All right, much more to discuss here on the Roundup. We're going to tell you about a long-standing vacancy of sorts in state government and also some forward-thinking maneuvers from one athletic department that could maximize revenues. All that, plenty more. We're hanging out with Bryan Anderson, Adam Wagner, Dane Huffman, and Mary Helen Moore are here as well. You'll hear from them in just a moment. This is the Friday News Roundup on Due South on listener-supported WUNC News.
SEC.
Welcome back to the Friday News Roundup on Due South. I'm Jeff Tiberii. 28 years ago this week, protections were established for some of the wild horses living on the Outer Banks. The Shackelford Banks Wild Horses Protection Act was signed into law by President Bill Clinton. Also known as the banker ponies, these small horses have been living on our coast for 400 years, believed to have descended from Spanish Mustangs. The federal legislation empowered a local nonprofit to manage the herd of horses, with a desired population of no more than 130. When the herd exceeds that amount, healthy horses are removed and put up for adoption. The Shackelford Banks wild horses are found on an uninhabited 9-mile barrier island east of Atlantic Beach and west of Cape Lookout. They are but one of 4 wild herds still living on the Outer Banks. Have y'all ever seen? You have, Mary Helen. You're smiling.
They're beautiful. I mean, it's such a treat to have that in this state. I mean, it's just so kind of surprising to see horses on the beach.
But have you seen the little ponies on that Island?
No, I haven't seen the little ponies.
Okay, but you've seen the other wild horses up in Corolla, which are also very impressive.
But I've been in Beaufort and been on a boat and seen them over there,
So
and
you
it's
have-
just fascinating to see them because they're like Mary Helen said, they're just so beautiful, and you're just like, oh my gosh, North Carolina is just amazing. You're sitting there going like these 400-year-old Spanish Mustangs are running around out there wild, and I didn't know that about 130. So if they get to 131, I need to call people.
You do. You have some land in the backyard. You have a little space to put
We'll make it up.
a pony.
My wife
Make
will be
it up.
surprised.
She'll be thrilled, I'm sure.
So you mentioned the Shackleford Bank's uninhabited. It has not always been uninhabited.
Thank you.
There was
Presently
a
uninhabited.
settlement there called Diamond City. There have been a lot of settlements, but the most recent one was Diamond City. It was taken out in the late 1800s by a big hurricane. And the folks out there, the descendants of the people that live there do this reunion every year or two. And I've gotten to go to it a couple of times. It's a very cool thing. The one time I went, I didn't get to go out on the boat because it was raining really, really hard. And they were just like, we're not going to go out this year. But they go out and they put a wreath for all the people that lived there. And it's just one of those, again, really cool pieces of North Carolina history.
Really interesting. And I'm going to botch this on live radio. Is it Portsmouth or Plymouth? There's another community where there have been people living as recently as 50 years ago. It's a barrier island. I'll check it on the Google here in a second. But yeah, the ever-changing landscape of that sandbar that stretches from Norfolk down to North Myrtle Beach. Fascinating. All right, history, facts, stories from the Old North State. You can always send them along to us, due south at WUNC.org.
Jeff, can I give a travel tip for folks down there?
Absolutely.
I promise I'm not taking a royalty share from this business, but if you go to Kill Devil Grill, jumbo crab cake and key lime pie as you're on your way to Corolla, that's where it's at. I missed the horses and I drowned my sorrow in key lime pie. So I highly recommend that.
And for the record, it was Portsmouth Island, which is just south of Ocracoke. I believe when the tide is low enough, you can still take certain vehicles. I would not take the minivan over there to Portsmouth from Ocracoke. Plymouth, of course, is a little farther inland. All right. Mary Helen, yes, please.
We had a cool story this week. I didn't report this one, but I read it and it was so cool. And because you mentioned Ocracoke, and Hyde County had a really cool experiment this week that they're like the first EMS in the country, they say, to test these like single passenger planes that you can just kind of lean forward and lift off, closer to a helicopter than a plane, even though it doesn't have those kind of rotating
propellers.
What are they called? Propellers, yeah. That they would take to a call because, you know, the roads in the Outer Banks, I mean, it can take a really long time to get something to get to a place that's maybe not that far away as the crow flies. Right. So they, a single passenger EMT paramedic would fly to this location where someone was having a diabetic emergency, a heart emergency, treat them until the ambulance could get there and take them to the hospital. So it's like these kind of planes are they were originally talked about as like, okay, these are like our little taxis for super rich people, I guess. I don't know. But this is like another way they can be used.
I mean, a way to,
for rural healthcare, which is really cool because North Carolina has the second biggest rural population of any state other than Texas. Yeah. And a higher percentage of our population lives in rural areas than anywhere, I think.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
There was a weird legislative item at some point. I think it was introduced by Robert Reeves this session that was about like Hyde County and hovercrafts. And I wonder if that doesn't tie into this.
Yeah, I think
somehow.
That's probably similar. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if it went anywhere. I remember that Colin Campbell and I had discussed it just in our like, what is this conversations? So I'm just going to put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that.
We will come back to that. You never know where the Friday News Roundup is going to go when the legislature's out of session. All right, this is fun. Let's turn to where do we want to go? Dealer's choice here. An Australian defense company. We'll get to politics and back to politics in a moment. An Australian defense company has plans to open a North American headquarters in, of all places, Apex. Mary Helen Moore, why? How come?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And a reporter from Business NC who covers the military, Dan Barkin, was there. And he brought up a really good point that, you know, it's North Carolina has a really robust defense industry, and it's gotten a lot of investment in recent years, especially in like rare earth materials, which is kind of an emerging defense area of the economy, but also in tech. But we usually get some of those investments from, the Atlantic sphere, not so much from like a country like Australia, who's operating more in, like the West Coast. Right. But this was a really cool company. Their name is Silentium, and they produce these sensors of all sorts, like from the kind you can carry on a backpack to something you would just like set up in a field, and they can detect things all the way in space. Yeah. They can detect drones. They can detect other people and objects and stuff. And supposedly the detectors cannot be detected. So it's like you can see things, but you're not being seen, is what they say. But yeah, they're putting their headquarters, North American headquarters, right here in the Triangle. And they say, it was an easy decision. You've just got so much access to really skilled research workforce and also to customers, people who are interested in this. Subtext of that being the U.S. military.
Right. I was going to ask about the proximity to Bragg and if that matters to a degree, and it sounds like it certainly does.
Yeah, they're not a direct contractor with the U.S. military. They're a subcontractor, and they wouldn't actually say which branches they're working with. I asked them, but, you can read between the lines a little bit on that one.
Interesting. All right. Friday News Roundup here on Due South. A couple of housekeeping items here. Dane, you want to jump in here?
I just want to follow up on one thing Mary Helen talked about. One thing that's really interesting that we're seeing is a lot more foreign investment across the board in North Carolina and investment from places you'd never expect. And that's happening a lot. And that's really interesting. Now, the defense industry, of course, is driven by these massive bases and also by the universities because they want to hire out of our universities. So I think we're going to see this more and more. Like right now, this is kind of like this outlier, right? But you're starting to see, Japanese delegations come to Raleigh. Anduril looks heavily at North Carolina and decides to go to Ohio. These big defense tech industries are considering North Carolina. And the interesting thing is some of these companies, they might be kind of small in the beginning, not a lot of jobs, but they scale quickly, especially when that government funding comes in.
If you can speak to it, do you have a sense for me, because I'm totally ignorant here, and or our listeners, of why that is? Are these market dynamics? Does this have to do with certain kinds of federal dollars flowing or not flowing?
It's federal dollars and backing, but a lot of it is, these companies are looking to hire people. Okay. So when they look at places where they can find smart, intelligent computer science type people, with the engineering schools that we have in the Triangle, that's making them pop. That's making them think, okay, because we're going to go into these places and pay people six figures, but we need smart, dedicated, driven people to put in our workforce. And the Triangle is blessed with that. Yeah, and that's really helping us.
Interesting.
And the state's prioritizing this as well. There's a newish initiative out of the Department of Commerce geared towards defense companies, which I don't think is surprising at all, considering things that both Dane and Mary Helen have mentioned.
Right, of course.
One thing that's interesting too about this, and I'm glad you brought this one up, is that if you think about the industries here, like the old quintiles, Duke Clinical Research, right? You get about 40 years, there was none of that in the Triangle. But once these companies start to grow and cluster, it's like they talk to their friends. And you would think that they say, well, I'm not going to go to North Carolina because there are all these other comparable companies here. I'll go to Virginia. And that's actually not what happens. A lot of times you see these adjacent companies come to the same place because they start to see each other doing that. And then all of a sudden you have this hub of these things. And I think these things like that are really kind of telling about what's going on in the market and what people are saying about the Triangle.
Fascinating. Friday News Roundup, bottom of the hour here on WUNC News. Let's drop in a trivia question for you. Send responses, please, to dewsouth@WUNC.org. Don't blurt it out. I suspect somebody at this table might know. This summer marks 70 years since the start of a North Carolina event honoring one specific Northern European culture. What is the annual event called, and where does it take place? Each summer, an event in North Carolina honors a Northern European culture. Where is the annual event held, and what is it called? Due south at WUNC.org. Pick up yourself a snazzy new mug if you can answer that one correctly. Bryan Anderson, Governor Josh Stein took some action this week on pending legislation. Of his action, what stands out?
Yeah, so at the end of this short session, sort of the last votes before the November election, there were 6 bills that went to Stein's desk. 4 of them passed with substantial bipartisan support. Stein signed all of those this week. There's 2 remaining bills, one of which Stein has promised to veto, one of which Stein, we would think, is likely to veto. So the 4 that he signed were 2 technical corrections bills, which is just a fancy way of saying lawmakers hit the Uno reverse card on some of the things they did in a budget a month ago. One of them being taking away $300,000 from Representative Joe Pike's gated community that he had gotten some funding for and redirecting that to Harnett County. That was one provision the Carolina Journal had reported on that raised some eyebrows. There's also $15 million for a film and entertainment grant, and supposedly that is to offset the damage of Mr. Beast because he is bringing Beast Game Season 3 to North Carolina. The maximum grant you can award is $15 million. There was some scrutiny last year as to, does him getting that grant present an opportunity cost for smaller filmmakers? So lawmakers kind of backfilled that, so that's not a concern. Another couple of interesting ones, I would say, is an election bill that's not getting much attention that Stein signed has a provision in it where you can count provisional ballots and absentees with an extended deadline, so it allows more time for that. But there is some very procedural cleverness we can see for court challenges. So as folks might remember with the Jefferson Griffin lawsuit against Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs in 2024, if you're challenging a state board of elections decision, you've got to go to Wake County Superior Court in many cases.
Right.
And the Wake County Superior Court, obviously being in the Raleigh area, is more liberal. Now, this bill will allow people to file suits in their home county or in Wake County Superior Court. So that allows more flexibility to bring complaints to maybe more Republican-friendly jurisdictions.
Okay.
So that is one thing to watch. And then this other thing that Stein signed is a 53-page monster rig reform bill. The biggest takeaway to me, at least, is that cities with at least 50,000 people will have to allow people to have accessory dwelling units if they want in areas that are already zoned for single-family homes. So there was a lot that Stein did, dozens of pages, but those are just some of the immediate takeaways.
How many more pieces of legislation remain on the governor's desk?
2 bills. One of them is House Bill 958. That's an election bill. Stein has pledged to veto that bill.
Correct, as you noted.
And then there is a court changes bill, which would allow Republican State Supreme Court Chief Justice Paul Newby to suspend trial court judges without pay while they're under investigation. And that has created some concerns about fairness, due process, and maybe emboldening a Chief Justice to take actions
against certain judges and not others.
Yeah. And that passed more along party lines, though there would be a vote potentially to override the governor based on a floor vote. So one might expect Stein to veto it. That would seem to be a case.
We shall see. Bryan Anderson with us here on the Roundup. So too are Mary Helen Moore, Dane Huffman, and Adam Wagner. Adam, let me turn to you. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety is still without a confirmed secretary. This is not new. Interim leader Jeff Smythe has been in the post on an interim basis since January. However, this week, Governor Josh Stein pulled Smythe's nomination 9 months after his initial appointment in December. The state Senate never held a confirmation hearing for Smythe. Why not?
So in North Carolina, under the way things work right now, the governor appoints cabinet secretaries. They are in acting status until the Senate confirms them. Generally, this has gone okay for those appointments. All but one of Governor Roy Cooper's appointees were confirmed. Dion Delegati is the one that wasn't confirmed. She was at DEQ.
Department of Environmental Quality.
Sure. And the Senate voted down her confirmation. Cooper hired her as a senior advisor. So coming back to this year, Stein's Department of Public Safety Secretary retired at the end of last year. He said, I'm appointing Jeff Smythe, who's an almost 40-year law enforcement veteran.
Okay.
And I'm confident in this.
Okay.
So the Senate pretty quickly had some concerns about some George Floyd era things, some what they viewed as overly progressive policies that Smythe had enacted, and they just haven't really engaged on this.
They haven't taken up the nominations.
There hasn't been a hearing. There hasn't been a vote. There hasn't been anything.
I want to note that this process of confirmation from the state Senate relatively new. They started this under Cooper, big brouhaha when it started, but it has largely been uncontroversial in its application since. But specifically with Smythe, what had he done, or what did they think he had done, the state Senate this is, Republican-led, and that they did not like?
So the things that came up, and there was some reporting from Carolina Journal on this, were during a George Floyd protest, Smythe had held a sign that said "End Police Brutality" with protesters, brought it back to the station in Burlington where he was then the police chief. There were some social media posts of officers holding the sign up. He also served on a racial justice in law enforcement task force under Governor Cooper. So, some kind of aggressive stuff. The Stein administration folks would push back on that and say, yes, but this is, again, almost a 40-year law enforcement veteran who's been on gang task forces and gotten guns off the street, and really has a pretty distinguished career.
And he's still on the Burlington City Council, so there was some question of just bandwidth.
Conflicts of interest
as well.
Oh, bandwidth, okay.
But according to, the judiciary chairs, which really kind of lead this process, they basically said we advised Stein, at least it sounded fairly early on, that there wasn't the votes and there was concerns that this guy was too progressive.
So,
go ahead.
Jumping back to one of those technical corrections bills that Bryan mentioned, there is a provision in one that says that if the governor appoints an acting secretary and he isn't confirmed in the biennium in which he's appointed, it basically becomes null and void on December when the next biennium starts.
Okay.
So there was a ticking clock on this.
Because the next biennium starts January of 2027.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Stein made this announcement one day, signed that into law the next day, which I don't think is a coincidence at all. And then, just like Cooper at Delegati, said, I'm hiring Smythe as a senior advisor into my staff.
All right, so this, I've only got a brief moment for you here, unfortunately, but this, of course, is in a similar vein to what we've seen in Congress with acting cabinet officials. Functionally, does it really matter from job responsibilities?
I think it does, because you have leadership turning over. Yeah. You have the possibility to have leadership turning over pretty frequently. You have, the governor's still in place, their priorities are still going to be there, but the secretaries might not be. Now, in this case, the interim secretary is the current chief of staff at DPS, who's been there for a while, who knows what that department does. So it might not be as impactful, but you don't have someone confirmed and in that spot.
Okay. Speaking of law enforcement and the judiciary and, the wide umbrella that I perhaps can throw something else under here, North Carolina Attorney General Jeff Jackson joined our program on Tuesday. We spoke about immigration oversight, antitrust lawsuits, as well as Duke Energy's pursuit of a residential rate increase. You can listen to our conversation at WUNC.org/Due South. And remember, you should download and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever it is you tune in. Adam Wagner, Dane Huffman, Mary Helen Moore, and Bryan Anderson are with us until 1 o'clock. We'll step aside for a moment, and we'll be back on the other side right here for the remainder of the North Carolina Friday News Roundup on Due South on listener-supported WUNC. Welcome back to listener-supported WUNC News. It is Due South Friday News Roundup. Rod Brindamore had birthday candles this week. You better have known that, Caniacs. The head coach of the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes, Brindamore's teams have made the playoffs in all 8 of his seasons at the helm, winning 4 division titles. And, of course, earlier this year, the second Stanley Cup in franchise history. Happy belated 56th to Coach Brindamore. And his teams have found plenty of success in recent years at home in front of one of the most raucous crowds in professional hockey. Tickets are not cheap, and some of them are getting harder to come by. Bryan, what's going on with season tickets?
I mean, I can give you the long version or the
Let's start with the short
crazy
version.
long version. So
Let's start with the short
It's
version.
been a journey. So essentially, due to demand, right after the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup, there was a surge in people requesting season tickets, whether it's full season, half season, quarter season. And at the time, I passed on full season tickets in a spot that I did not love. And I was hopeful that some better seats in a quarter or half plan would emerge. The half plan, there were like 3 seats together. You can't book 2 seats with them because then you're leaving, on Ticketmaster where you leave that 1 seat empty. You can't do that. Okay. That was a big problem with the Hurricanes. And so I get an email like earlier this month saying all the half plans are gone and we're not going to make any quarter plans available. But then earlier this week, I got a notification that a quarter plan would be available. And unlike the full season ticket offer, I did not wait on this one. So I am going to at least 11 Hurricanes games this year.
So where are your seats?
That is a location that I will keep private for the sake of, I know political folks might want to come up to me, and my Hurricane seat is a non-chatter zone.
I don't know. I can't speak for the bathroom. The Canes, here's the upshot. Here's the headline that we're bearing. The Canes have sold out of season tickets. Has this ever happened before?
They have not sold out of all their season tickets. So what happened is this is the first time, like Bryan was talking about, the 3 buckets.
Got it.
In some of these seasons, they've been really close on some of the buckets, but haven't sold them all. This is the first time they've sold completely out of all 3 buckets. Yeah. Season, half season, quarter season.
There will still be some tickets available for single game purchases.
August 20th at noon is when single game tickets go on sale, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how fast they go.
But if you're a season ticket holder member, you get a pre-sale 48 hours before the general public, so we'll even see what's available. I will say to Adam's question, I'll narrow it down to I'm in the upper bowl. I don't have some fancy club level seat or suite level ticket. I'll throw that out to folks.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So, but Jeff, there's a really interesting trend going on here that people are going to see. Last year they opened the View Bar upstairs, and so they knocked out some of the seats in the 300 level, and they put the View Bar in, right? And they're also adding a lot more of these premium seats, these bunker suites and everything. So you're really seeing this change in sports arenas from these sort of like everybody sits in the same seat type thing, right? To these luxury areas and then these more hangout areas. And that's really going to be fascinating to see.
And Jeff, if WUNC has an extra budget for correspondence, Mary, Helen, and I will personally volunteer to cover the Canes from those premium seats if y'all would like us to. Sorry, Adam.
Some of us work here.
That's fair.
Some of us do work here. Thank you, Adam Wagner.
Adam already works too hard enough. We can't have him going to Canes games over the weekend for WUNC. You need the time off, Adam.
It's a fascinating moment for the Hurricanes. I mean, obviously there is there's this culmination when they win the Cup, but the era, the moment, it continues. And I mean, as I noted, this is one. To me, I'm not a huge hockey guy, but this is up there with Montreal. This is one of the loudest venues in hockey, and I would think it's only going to serve to continue here in the months ahead. Did you consider you are a Caniac? I mention this every time you're on the show. Was this under consideration in the?
I think that's like a long-term
goal.
Consideration
Life
for
goal.
us.
Okay.
A long-term goal. Yeah.
All right.
I would love to, but I'll stick with 1 or 2 games this season for now.
Wise.
But I think this is really interesting timing to have this level of success with Dundon being the owner now and these upgrades kind of unfolding at Lenovo Center at the time. I mean, it makes me wonder, are they going to spend a little extra while they're doing that because they feel they've got this money flowing in? I don't know.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see if they get headquarters and everything and they put them there. There's been talk that Lenovo may put their headquarters there. There's nothing official on that yet, but certainly, it's been a conversation. You start putting stuff like that, these major headquarters there and these types of things, that attracts a lot of other amenities and stuff. And I think that's what they're going for. Yeah. The sort of the gold standard for this is the Battery in Atlanta. Everybody wants a place where you have a sports team, you have retail, you have upscale places to live, you can put offices there. That's what people are talking talk about. There's another place in Los Angeles that they've been looking at as well. But we're going to see dramatic change over there in the next 3 years, and it's really going to be fascinating to see how that evolves.
Due South, Friday News Roundup here on WUNC News. Dane, you and I were chatting about the monetization of sports before we got into the live broadcast today. Elsewhere on the sports front, UNC Chapel Hill wants to place its athletic department in an LLC. They say the move would maximize or further maximize profits, grow profits. It would also potentially further obfuscate funds and athletic-related decisions. Build on this. Tell us more about what they're proposing and why.
New athletic director there, Steve Newmark, is coming in with some ideas here about how you're going to monetize this and sort of keep up with the places like the Michigans, right? So UNC's athletic budget is around $189 million. That's a lot, but these SEC Big Ten schools are way ahead of them. So what they're talking about is trying to take the things like marketing rights and some of this where you can commercialize and use that, not the entire athletic department would be an LLC, but parts of it. So that in their view, you can be more nimble, quicker, less review, get things done. Because in his view and what he told the trustees the other day is that we're in a marketplace where we're competing with professional sports. We're competing with entertainment.
So we're talking about corporate sponsorships. We're talking about NIL, or is
that's
that
right? Corporate sponsorship, all that. However, there was some pushback about this from the trustees. They were like, so what's the governance here?
Yeah.
How are we sure that we are sort of meeting UNC's brands and standards and that type of stuff?
And it's a public university that falls under public scrutiny, public records, it should or historically.
And this would report eventually to the chancellor. So what Newmark was saying to the board was this essentially still goes to the chancellor. But it would be a dramatic change, and you're still, it wasn't that long ago UNC's athletics budget was $100 million. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but that seems like a lot of money to me.
Bill Belichick now, right?
What's that?
All that $100 million is going to Bill Belichick now, right? Isn't it? It's pretty much just in the budget.
$10 million a year to Belichick, but still, it's a lot.
But on the money front, I do think this is something of a dirty little not so secret. And I'm just going to read directly from your reporting, Dane. According to documents released by UNC, the athletics department generated $173 million in revenue in the 2024-25 year, but had operating expenses of $188 million. This is me interjecting now. That's a deficit of $15 million.
Right.
Back to the reporting. As recently as 2018, the revenue figure was $104 million in current dollars, according to the Knight Newhouse College Athletics database. Close quote. The dirty little secret here is that the vast majority of college athletic departments run deficits, which is kind of a fascinating reality in all this. Yes, you mentioned Michigan, and there are Michigan, Ohio State. Like, there are a few that make money, but the vast majority of these schools that are pursuing major developments and paying coaches $8, $10, $12 million, most of them are losing money.
And generally speaking, two of your sports are the ones that are making money, and the other sports do not. Right. And so you're funding, I think Carolina has 28 varsity sports. So you're funding roughly 26 off your men's basketball program and your football program. Generally speaking, others are getting closer to break even, that sort of thing. But that's not the entire issue, though. The obvious issue is you're paying coaches more, you're paying assistants more. We're seeing assistants making well more than $1 million a year now, unheard of 10 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Jeff,
totally
can you
different.
Does UNC have a football team?
They still do have a football team. All right, Bryan Anderson, spicy as usual here on the Roundup. Let me turn back to that trivia question, which was which North Carolina event started 70 years ago this summer? Dane is moving to it. I think he's got it. Dane, let me ask the question. Event honoring Northern European culture. What is the annual event called? You can say it out loud here. And where does it take place?
Highland Games.
The Highland Games.
Mountains.
In Grandfather Mountains, we say congratulations to Miles, who was one of the correct respondents for that question today. Have you ever been to the Highland Games?
No, never.
They throw I have never been. I'd like to go. They throw this thing called, is it a gable? I was looking for my note here. They throw this long caber. A caber. They throw this long pole-looking thing. Scottish Games, Highland Games, it pays tribute to the Scotland high country. So anyway. That is our trivia question for today. I've got some news briefs. Please jump in here if you've got anything to flesh out here. Extreme heat is persisting. Another heat advisory in effect from the National Weather Service. Highs in the upper 90s. Heat index values approaching 110 today in parts of central North Carolina, raising the risk of heat-related illness. Forecasters suggest drinking plenty of water and scheduling frequent breaks if you have to be working outdoors. This heat follows the hottest month on record in the United States. July's average temperatures in the city of Raleigh were 5 degrees warmer than they were 50 years ago. By the way, we'll be focusing on extreme heat next week on the show. Stop by on Tuesday. Meanwhile, you got a thought?
I'll just say that walking the dog has been really miserable the last couple of days.
I like dogs. I don't have dogs. Do you have to put little booties on your dog at some point?
So ours won't wear them. She's like half Pomeranian and half poodle, so she's got kind of an attitude. And she'll literally just shake her feet until they're off.
Aww.
And then just kind of look at you like, why did you do this to me?
You're looking out for her. Quick follow-up here. Does her attitude influence yours more, or does your attitude influence hers?
So I think her attitude influences the babies more than anything.
Okay.
They kind of go back and forth a little bit sometimes.
All right. Residents in the Wilkes County town of Rhonda could soon have something of an existential question before them on the ballot this fall. According to WFDD Radio, Rhonda is not bringing in enough money to cover its own bills, losing about $25,000 a month. This week, the Board of Commissioners voted to ask state lawmakers to put a question on the ballot in November. That question would ask residents whether Rhonda should be dissolved. If that were to happen, some services would fall under the county's obligation, while others would become the responsibility of residents. This is an interesting one, and we'll see what happens with this referendum, but I do think it's something that we could see happen in other places. Rhonda has met real financial challenges because of water issues. We have water and sewer issues in some of these rural places in the state.
So I think that that's an important point. We're going to see a lot more of this in the coming years. There's a lot of these small towns in North Carolina that just don't have the tax base anymore to persist. And now there's kind of a mechanism for them to not be towns anymore.
All right.
And I especially now that COVID era money has kind of gone away, I know that State Treasurer Bryan is looking at this and is like, we're going to have to handle a lot of these.
And as Mary Helen Moore noted earlier in the program, this is the second most rural state in the country. There are a lot of people living in a lot of places like Rhonda. Rhonda's unique because it's Rhonda, but Rhonda's not all that unique, if that makes sense. So. Anyway.
If I can tie two things together on Brad Briner, we did a profile on Briner for the Assembly that folks should check out. And to tie it into the UNC conversation, my first interview with Briner was at the very opening game of the baseball regionals. And watching Briner 6 rows or so back, it was a very fun reporting assignment. And between all the political leaders and WUNC folks who are big UNC fans, I'm happy to report I am now a Rams Club member, and I do have football season tickets, so my criticism of UNC comes as an observer as well.
I'm going to have to fill out a Brian Anderson bingo card next time. We'll see how I do. A couple more quick ones for you. City of Durham has a new police chief. Stephanie Martis heads up the force following a long tenure as an officer in Greensboro. While violent crime is down nationally, it is up in Durham, where the murder rate is about twice that of the state's figure. Chief Martis said in interviews this week that reducing violence and improving staffing are among her top priorities when she officially takes over on September the 8th. And the last one, kind of a sad one, I think for some, not me personally, I had never been there, but a popular spot for families and fun and games in the Triangle is closing this weekend. Adventure Landing in Raleigh announced online that it is not renewing its lease and will close on Sunday after 38 years of business. If you've got a gift card, you have until Sunday to use them. Was this like a go-to for any of y'all, Adventure Landing?
It was like the coolest thing to do when I was like 10.
Yeah.
Is come to Raleigh, go to Adventure Landing. I mean, just play a little golf, ride the little carts around.
Yeah.
Miniature golf.
All right.
I was actually talking about this last night. What happened to mini golf? I feel like there used to be places to play outdoors.
It's the correct way to play golf.
Now everything's like inside in these like big warehouse buildings. Like I don't even know where I would go around here to play mini golf outside.
Like traditional mini
golf. You
golf
have to go to the beach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably right.
It seems like you see it as
Kinda
much
bums me
at
out.
the beach as you do.
There
It used to be all
is
over the
an
place.
outdoor mini golf course in North Raleigh as part of the JCC. Way up Creedmoor off of Norwood, not all that far from where I live. but I played mini golf within the last week with my 8-year-old son.
Oh my gosh.
Off of Highway 105 in Watauga County, so it wasn't anywhere near here. But we performed well, if you're wondering. We were both right at par.
That was my main question.
Main point, some slight points of frustration.
The warehouse mini golf thing is weird. It's
like Party Shack?
Yeah. It's very intense.
It's just a different experience for sure.
I'm up against the clock. We're going to pinwheel it one more time. Just something that is on the horizon for you during these dog days of summer. Adam Wagner, reporter, editor, covering state politics for the North Carolina Newsroom.
My birthday is next week.
Well, happy birthday, Adam Wagner. Bryan Anderson of the Assembly.
I'm taking a much-needed breather next week, so I will just tell folks we spent a lot of time on that Briner profile. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff that's happening in the Treasurer's office that folks should really be paying attention to. It's arguably the most important and least covered statewide office in North Carolina.
Dane Huffman, Triangle Business Journal.
My birthday was yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of fun.
Happy
I
birthday.
went to dinner in Raleigh with a bunch of friends, and that was terrific.
Where'd you go?
Well, y'all have already done promo, so I'll jump in. The Players Retreat in Raleigh.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
And Mary Helen Moore.
We're looking at flock cameras next week, and
Okay,
also
interesting.
putting the finishing touches on our best restaurants list, which I'm excited about.
Oh, I'm excited to read that one. All right. Many thanks to our panel, as always, getting you caught up on news, politics, and plenty of other things across the last hour here on Due South. This is Due South. Due South is a production of WUNC and a broadcast service of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Our producers are Stacia Brown and Rachel McCarthy. Rachel Hernandez is our intern, and this is Rachel Hernandez's last day as Due South summer intern. She produced this news roundup as well as many others over the past few months. She also produced several interviews for the program. We are thankful for her contributions and knowledge and work here at Due South in recent months, and we wish her the best as she moves on to her next adventure. Thank you, Rachel Hernandez. Daenerys Thomas, technical director, Aaron Keever, executive producer, theme music from Quilla. For Leonida Inge, my name is Jeff Tiberii. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you again Monday at noon.
The fatal shooting of a teenager at a protest in Seattle has gone unsolved for 6 years.
This is open in your face. How are there no answers?
Our investigation has uncovered new evidence and witnesses who say they've never talked to police.
Did police ever call you? Not once.
Listen to We Keep Us Safe, a new true crime series on the Embedded podcast from NPR.